What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today, we're just going to look over some expanded results from a recent tournament, the Limitless Online Series Weekly number 15 from January 8th, with almost 200 players in it. But we're going to be particularly focusing on the Zoroark decks, because Zoroark GX has not been getting a lot of love recently in Expanded, with new cards like Scorch VMAX and Eternatus VMAX and Colossal VMAX, a lot of huge Pokemon that Zoroark itself can never really deal with efficiently. But Pedro Torres got second in this large event with Zoroark Counters. Now, Zoroark Counters was a deck that I was interested in trying out recently and Expanded, but didn't get around to it. I saw some talk on Twitter about it. I can't remember if it was Pedro himself trying out this deck earlier in the week or last week, or somebody else had tried it, but I saw people talking about it. Maybe Zoroark Counters can be good, so I did mean to get around to testing it, but unfortunately I did not. And I also couldn't play in the Limitless Weekly Expanded this week since it was on Friday and I had some coaching sessions scheduled. But yeah, so I'm excited to take a look at Pedro's list, and we'll look at most of the top 8 and a couple other things, but I really just want to focus on talking about the Zoroark deck today, because I'm excited to see Zoroark back in action. Before we get into this though, shout out to PotownStore.com, the best place for you to get PTCGO codes, and be sure to use code Celio for 5% off. And I am not affiliated with the play.limitlesstcg.com site, but I cannot advocate for it enough. Check out this site. If you're not playing on tournaments on this site and you're playing Pokemon TCG online, you're doing it wrong. There are free tournaments, there's money tournaments, there's pack tournaments, there's standard, expanded, legacy, old formats. There's everything to do every day of the week. Just check out play.limitlesstcg.com and you're not going to be disappointed. So I guess we'll start with first place list and then we'll get to the Zoroark deck and really get into that. So Bert Walters has actually top 8'd this one and the 2 previous expanded Limitless tournaments, if I'm not mistaken, with ADP Turbo Dark, and Bert finally won a tournament with it, so congrats to Bert. So ADP Turbo Dark is interesting. It uses of course Alter Creation with the double dragon energy to try to do that on turn 1 and buff your attacks for the rest of the game. From there you can even just Gust and Ultimate Ray something and then finish out the game on turn 3 with Zoroark Greninja GX Tag Team. So just in case you're not familiar with Zoroark Greninja Tag Team, since it really has never seen success in the standard format, it has the Dark Pulse attack. For Dark Colorless, it does 30 damage plus 30 more damage times the amount of dark energy attached to all of your Pokemon, and double dragon energy does count as 2 dark energy. So if you have your double dragon on ADP, then you have your next energy that you attach for Ultimate Ray next turn. Let's say that you hit 1 dark patch and 1 max elixir over the course of things, so that's 5 energy. You accelerate 3 more with Ultimate Ray, and then you attach 1 next turn. If the ADP did not get knocked out, that's going to be 9 energy on your board, if I'm counting correctly, with only hitting 1 dark patch and 1 max elixir. So that means that your Dark Pulse attack would do 330 damage after accounting for Alter Creation. So throw in a Fighting Fury Belt, that's 340. You're one-shotting into Eternatus, and we can check the win box on the tournament results. So this deck does a lot of damage very, very fast. It's super, super aggressive. This is kind of like exactly what I think about when I think of expanded format at its core, are these really fast decks with battle compressors and max elixirs. Multiple draw options, Sky Field to make your bench as big as you want it to be, special energy that are really, really busted. So yeah, this is like expanded format at its core, in my opinion. So next is Pedro's Zoroark deck, and I've already started thinking about some possible ways maybe to make this have a better matchup versus Bert's deck. So I'd like to get into that as well. So Zoroark GX, if you're new to the channel, I'm a big fan of it. I played it for most expanded events when I could play in expanded events, or when I thought it was good. I played it in, I think, every major standard event I went to for the 2017-2018 season after it became legal. Big fan of Zoroark GX. I love it. And so I'm happy to see it being played again. So Zoroark GX, like I said, if you're new here, maybe you don't know some of the expanded cards, we'll just run over the obvious ones or the well-known ones very briefly. So Zoroark GX has 210 HP. It has the trade ability. Once during your turn, you may discard a card to draw 2 cards. And then it has the Riotous Beating attack. It does 20 for every Pokemon you have in play, including itself. So if you have Skyfield, which allows you to have a bench of 8, then Riotous Beating does 180 damage for a DCE attachment, which isn't crazy in this day and age. Back in the day, you would run multiple choice bands, so you could one-shot other Zoroarks for 210, and that was like the really good number to hit. But 210 doesn't even sound impressive right now. So the big thing here is you're going to hit things sometimes with Zoroark GX to soften them up, but you want your opponent to take knockouts so you can activate your counter energy. So your counter energy provides a colorless, but if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, and if this card is attached to a Pokemon that isn't a Pokemon GX or EX, it provides every type of energy but 2 at a time, so it is essentially a double rainbow energy. So if you attach it to something like Mimikyu or Sudowoodo or Celebi, it counts as the energy needed for their main attacks. And Mimikyu, Sudowoodo, and Celebi V here are selected very carefully. Celebi V is here to counter Colossal VMAX with its Line Force attack. This attack does 20 more damage for each of your benched Pokemon, so 50, and then if you have a full bench of 8, that's 210. That's always knocking out Colossal VMAX. So that's your counter for that. Then Sudowoodo counters a lot of stuff. Sudowoodo counters Eternatus VMAX. Since you can have your own dark Pokemon on your bench, you can actually reach those numbers you need with Eternatus VMAX, I believe. So if Eternatus VMAX does 30 for each of your dark Pokemon in play, right? I need to double check this for myself, because I do play Eternatus quite a bit, but does it say for each of your Pokemon in play or for each of your dark Pokemon in play? We need to back check real quick before I say something incorrectly. For each of your dark Pokemon in play. Okay, so does Sudowoodo work for Eternatus VMAX? We're finding that out right now. So if we have all 4 Zoroarks or Zoruas in play, that's 4. Then we can have Crobat, that's 5, 6, and then we can have a Lone Grimer, that's 7, so that's 210. Okay, so if we have all of our Pokemon, that's a knockout. If we have 6 out of 7 of our dark Pokemon, that's a knockout. If we have 5, it is not a knockout. Okay, so if we have 6, that's 6, yeah, 360 damage. So if we can have 6 dark Pokemon on our board, Sudowoodo gets the knockout, so maybe consider adding like one more Lone Grimer or something if that really comes up and Eternatus VMAX is being played a ton in Expanded. You could also potentially add Muscle Band or Fighting Fury Belt or something like that. Fight Muscle Band probably, if that would fix the math. But anyway, I digress. Sudowoodo hits Fighting Weakness, which is like Snorlax VMAX, and like I said, Eternatus VMAX if you can get the correct amount of Pokemon on the board. And Watch and Learn is also just generally good because it can also just copy Brave Blade and knock out a Zacian, which is really good too. So now Mimikyu Copycat can also copy Brave Blade, knock out a Zacian, and Zacian's a very popular card. It hits Giratina Garchomp Tag Team for weakness. And Roxy Chomp is a very good deck. I believe that got top 4 in this tournament. It also hits ADP for weakness. So if they use Ultimate Ray, you can copycat, knock them out, take 3 prizes. But even if another Pokemon uses an attack, you can gust up the ADP, copycat it for 3 prizes because ADP is weak to Fairy. So those are the main counter attackers of this deck. And then we have Oricorio with Supernatural Dance to counter things like Mad Party that focus on having a lot of Pokemon in the discard pile. Supernatural Dance for each Pokemon in your opponent's discard pile. Put 1 damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. So this was a very popular card when Night March and Vespiquen were good decks, and now it's popular because of Mad Party. And then lastly, this Zoroark has the Foul Play attack. Choose one of the defending Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So you can even use this for a DCE. That doesn't necessarily have to be counter energy. Now, like I was saying, I'm thinking about how do we make this deck better against Bert's ADP Turbo Dark. I was thinking Lycanroc GX and Rainbow or Fighting Energy. I was thinking Baby Buzzwole from Forbidden Light. So if your opponent takes a knockout on a 2-prize Pokemon without using Alter, or they take a knockout on a 1-prize Pokemon after Alter, then Buzzwole would be able to have its Sledgehammer turn to knock something out potentially that's fighting weak, as long as you add like a muscle band or something into the deck. But that would take also having the muscle band or the choice band for Zoro Ninja or something like that. So that's like a 2-card inclusion, so maybe we don't want to go with that. I was also thinking about playing Zoroark Garbodor. So maybe just like a 2-2-1 line, like 2 Trubbish, 2 Trashalanche, 1 Garbotoxin, so you can take out the Alone Grimer, the Alone Muck, maybe cut other cards somewhere to make room for that. So you could have Trashalanche as a threat because they do play a lot of items, but I do think they could probably limit the items they play. They could just slap a Double Dragon to ADP, Alter Creation, not put a lot of items, Ultimate Ray, not use a lot of items. So I'm not even sure if that one's foolproof really. Now Pokemon Ranger does get rid of Altered Creation, remove all effects of attacks on each player and their Pokemon. So that is kind of like an answer to ADP, but not really the Turbo Dark's aggression, not really Turbo Dark itself and its aggression. So moving on from the Zoroark deck, that's really cool, and I hope we keep seeing Zoroark do well. Victor De Velasco, I actually played in a smaller expanded tournament 2 days ago. I played Stall, and if you're interested in my stall list, Edge's stall list here is 1 card off of mine that I played in that tournament, and I went 3-1-1 or 4-1-1, however many rounds there were. But I actually lost to Victor playing Malamar VMAX Electro GX, and I thought, you know what, it's probably a fluke. You know, it was a very small tournament. It was like 30 people, 20 people, something like that. 5 rounds, no top cut. I was playing Stall. This makes me take prizes, which I don't want to do. But then I saw it get top 4 in this tournament. I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. So Malamar VMAX, your opponent reveals their hand, choose a card you find there and put it on the bottom of their deck, and you also do 180 damage. And Electrode GX knocks itself out to attach energy from the discard to your Pokemon however you like. So you pop the Electrode, make your opponent take prizes, Ace Trainer, attach energy to Malamar VMAX. It's basically just like the Trevnor Milotic deck, but without Trevnor and without Milotic. And you're using Malamar VMAX here instead. And you actually get to look at your opponent's hand and choose the card. So maybe even better once it gets set up, if it can get set up. And it looks like it did get set up quite a bit because they went 8-2. Eventually losing to Burt in top 4 here, it looks like. But other than that, their only loss all day was ADP Turbo Dark. So looks like this deck suffers against ADP Turbo Dark and is pretty good against the rest of the metagame. So maybe look out for Malamar VMAX Electro GX as well. And like I said earlier, if you want to see tournaments and any of these standings and deck lists and everything, play.limitlesstcg.com. It has it all. And then there was one more Zoroark deck here played by Guatan Martini. We'll take a look at this one, and this is really cool. So this is going to use Stinger GX to make both players shuffle their prizes into their deck. Then each player puts the top 3 cards of their deck face down as their prize cards. So you both get set to 3 prizes. As long as they're not playing ADP, they're going to only be able to take 2 prizes next turn because this deck only plays 2 prize Pokemon. So they'll knock out Naganadel, let's say that. And if they're playing a 3 prize deck, you can just instantly knock them out next turn because you're playing Hypnotoxic Laser to apply poison, you're playing Nihilego GX to apply poison, and you're playing Shrine of Punishment to apply tick damage. And then if you do apply that poison, you can use Super Fang, put damage counters on the defending Pokemon until its remaining HP is 10. Then the poison ticks in between turns, and you took 3 prize cards. So you really only need to take 3 prize cards to win with this deck. Really cool. Zoroark GX is there as your draw engine to make sure you can, you know, have all the cards you need. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is Gladion. So like, if your Eradicate is not originally in your prizes, but then after Stinger GX it gets shuffled into your prizes, that's an issue. Or if it's in your prizes to begin with, you might want to not roll the dice and hope that it doesn't just get shuffled back into your prizes. So you might want to, you know, Gladion it out, then evolve it, then Stinger GX. But aside from your one Raticate being prized, this deck is really awesome. So again, glad to see Zoroark GX doing well because it's an evolution deck, and Zoroark GX decks typically do take some skill to pilot correctly. So really cool. I know VLG Soto also played a stall list similar to mine from the other day. There was, let's see, Chinchino Control, very nice. I know there was also just a really simple looking mill deck here at bubbling at 17th. Not a ton of Pokemon, just some Bunnelbees, Lugia, some of your typical stall, mill, wall type Pokemon, then also the 4 dolls and the 4 robos. So this one was really cool to see as well. But yeah, if you guys want to see the rest of the results for yourself, go to play.limitlesstcg.com to check that out. Those are all the decks I'm going to look at today because I've covered, I think, all of these expanded archetypes at some point in the past like month or two since we've been doing expanded tournaments on Limitless, and it's been really great to have expanded tournaments. So I'm hoping I get to play in some more. Yeah. Excited to see Zoroark back, and pretty wide array of decks doing pretty well and expanded, and also a lot of different play styles. We have Zoroark, which is evolution. We have the aggro decks, the Turbo Dark. We have Malamar VMAX Electrode, which is just way out of left field. We got Control. We got straight up Mill. We got Stall, Dragapult Garbodor, which is pretty like mid-rangey tempo. Not tempo, mid-rangey. Yeah, we'll go with mid-range. But yeah, excited to see a lot of different decks succeeding and expanded. It looks like a super cool metagame. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Shout out to PotownStore.com. As always, get your PTCGO codes over there and use code Celio for 5% off. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for daily Pokemon TCG content. Leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.